Ukraine claims it launched large-scale drone attacks on multiple Russian airbases, some thousands of miles deep into Russian territory. This bold move, part of what Ukraine calls Operation Spiderweb, reportedly caused over $7 billion in damage and destroyed more than 40 Russian bombers. The Ukrainian Security Service states that this was the largest strategic aviation blow to Russia since 22 June 1941. As the war escalates, the world teeters on the brink of chaos, and a full-scale nuclear war feels closer than ever. In May 2024, Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of the Russian Security Council, issued a chilling statement on social media. He warned that if NATO sends troops to Ukraine, Russia would retaliate with nuclear strikes extending beyond Ukraine's borders. He called it a global catastrophe from which no Western leader could escape. Since then, Russian President Vladimir Putin has intensified nuclear rhetoric and ordered military drills for non-strategic nuclear weapons. But what does this mean for ordinary people? The impact of a nuclear war between Russia and the US wouldn't just be distant explosions, it would begin with invisible devastation. One of the first signs wouldn't be a mushroom cloud but the loss of your phone signal. An electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, would disable phones, power grids, and virtually all electronics. Life as we know it would end within minutes. To understand the potential chain of events, let's explore the likely sequence of a US-Russia nuclear conflict. Putin has raised Russia's nuclear readiness, deploying tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus for the first time since the fall of the Soviet Union. In late 2024, Putin also revised Russia's nuclear doctrine, lightly lowering the threshold for nuclear use. Experts say this increases the chances of nuclear war. Russia's nuclear strategy relies heavily on advanced submarine-launched missiles. Key bases like Kamchatka Peninsula store powerful weapons like SSN-6, SSN-8, and SSN-18. In a first strike scenario, Russian submarines would launch from the Arctic or Pacific Oceans to target the US mainland, aiming to cripple response capabilities. Meanwhile, the US and NATO rely on the Defense Support Program (DSP) satellites to detect missile launches by tracking heat signatures. These satellites provide precious minutes for response. The US nuclear arsenal remains on high alert, capable of launching thousands of missiles within moments. Simultaneously, the ground-based Midcourse Defense (GMD) system in Alaska is tasked with intercepting incoming warheads. However, its success rate is only about 50%, which means many Russian missiles would still get through. A nuclear war would likely begin not with bombs but with an EMP weapon detonated high above the Earth. EMPs release gamma rays that ionize air molecules, creating massive electromagnetic bursts that destroy electronics. Hospitals, traffic systems, banks, water pumps, everything would fail. Imagine waking up to darkness, no phone, no water, no transport, and no way to know what's going on. The real death toll wouldn't come from the explosions alone but from societal collapse. No power means no food production, no banking, no emergency services. The US government would be unable to coordinate any defense or recovery effort. Looting, panic, and riots would follow. Civilization would unravel in hours. Within 15 minutes of the EMP, Russia's intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, would reach mid-flight, targeting US military bases and major cities. The fireball from a single nuclear bomb can vaporize humans within a 2-mile radius. The blast wave would destroy infrastructure and toss debris at lethal speeds. Even survivors would be left in a destroyed, unrecognizable world. The CDC advises lying flat on the ground, covering vital organs, and shielding your eyes from the blast. But even if you survive the initial detonation, the real threat is just beginning: radiation sickness, massive fires, and societal collapse. Radiation poisoning, called acute radiation syndrome (ARS), would cause vomiting, internal bleeding, skin burns, and eventual organ failure. Fallout would contaminate food and water. Firestorms could destroy entire cities, as seen in Hiroshima. In modern times, these could reach even greater scales. Without functioning governments, people would be on their own. Law and order would vanish. Chaos and violence would follow. Mental health would deteriorate due to trauma, grief, and hopelessness. Humanity would be psychologically broken. But the deadliest consequence is nuclear winter. Fires from blasts would send soot and ash into the upper atmosphere, blocking sunlight. Crops would fail, temperatures would plunge, and famine would kill billions. In some models, food production in the US could drop by 98.9%, Russia by 99.7%, and China by 97.2%. Scientists classify nuclear winter into 6 levels, from minor disruptions to global extinction. A full US-Russia nuclear war could reduce global temperatures by 10 degrees Celsius, 14 degrees Fahrenheit, bringing mass starvation and economic collapse. Southern Hemisphere countries would also suffer due to trade breakdowns. Governments would fall, the ozone layer would be destroyed, ultraviolet radiation would increase, and ecosystems would collapse. Fisheries would shrink, forests would die, and sea life would vanish. The global economy would crash. UN, NATO, and other alliances would cease to function. Trust would vanish. Violence and tribalism would replace law. Even after the atmosphere clears, radiation and soil degradation would keep farming nearly impossible. Nations would be at war for dwindling supplies. Civilization would enter a new dark age or disappear entirely. In such a future, only scattered survivors might remain, living primitively, scavenging, and defending themselves from threats. The psychological toll would persist. Yet, with time, small communities may try to rebuild, powered by renewable energy and basic agriculture. But make no mistake, the only real way to survive a nuclear war is to prevent it. Diplomatic efforts, disarmament, and peaceful global cooperation are the only true safeguards. The lesson here is not just scientific, it's moral. Humanity cannot afford to make this mistake.